Hey fishing fans, Ken Smith, KenSmithFishing.com. Welcome to beautiful Sam Rayburn. It is late May, getting ready for the Texas Team Trail Championship next weekend. We got to spend Friday, Saturday, and today Sunday on the lake, and then we got 2 days of practice later this week. The lake has warmed up tremendously. The water's in the high. By the way, so new boat's great. We did not get to play with the props on it. On my 25 pitch prop, my spare hub, I had loaned to Dickie to try a different prop on his boat, and his 24 was back on his boat, so we didn't get to play with props this weekend, but we'll do that soon, and we'll get y'all an update on performance and what prop seems to be working best on the new Mercury 4-stroke Pro XS. But back to fishing. So we started the first morning just hoping there might be a little bit of a frog bite left, and so we ran pretty far up the lake, and this is about my third cast right here with a frog.
Nothing else but the grass.
All right, so here we go. We are full of gas completely. Two fat guys. Got a pretty good hole shot. He kind of whacked on. Look at that frog. Yummy, yummy frog. And then we spent another 30 minutes in there and didn't have another blow up. And if those fish are up there, you'll know it really quick. So we bagged that and we came back down, and we just started fishing sort of some little main lake points. Kind of actually something Phil Marks has described in the past, just sort of clay bank points, little points with wood on them, and in this case natural wood, not brush piles. And we certainly found a group of fish there. You'll see right here we caught a bunch of fish off that spot.
You can catch them.
Biggin, 10-pounder, 10-pounder, Mike Iaconelli.
When he gets on them, he can catch some good size too. There's about a 4-pounder counts right over there. Was that a bass?
No. Garçon.
I fished on my brother's pole the other day. Really, the only time I ever used one. Right there, and you catch you a couple of sixes, you got something. Think he didn't eat it too.
Right through the top of the noggin. Donk.
Oh shit. Got his eye.
Sorry, where we're throwing, coming off that drop. And it's a couple of trees on it, it's just loaded with bait fish. And you can see there's a lot of just keepers here, but just keepers ain't gonna help us in what we're doing next weekend.
I thought it was fish fry weekend. Ken?
Fish fry weekend? Lord, they're getting smaller.
Look at that shit.
Half a worm.
Yeah. He might have had a little clamp on it.
A little better fish. Take that back. Man, when they're eating it, they're just flat eating it.
Might be over. rod doing that shit.
Slung some water up on the lens.
Trying to get, come on, fish. Trying to get him on hook.
I'm sorry about the nasty language, but that's, you know, he's from Lufkin, so. And so most of those fish were on either a crankbait or a big worm on a Carolina rig. We then moved around a little bit, caught a few more fish. We got over top of a drain, and Moon Pie caught this nice fish right here, which this was a really solid fish, and he had just lost another good fish, kind of same size fish in that area. Moon Pie hooked up out here. We moved up and got in the drain. There's a little better fish.
Yeah, 5 pounds. That's about like that one I set on a while ago. I think you have your line.
Catch my line so I can pull on him some.
I gotta get a heavier rod.
No kidding.
That's some good fish.
Good Lord, just reel him up here. It's just a little 4-pounder.
Thank you.
Bada bing. Nice fish.
If he was fat, that would be a good one.
Yeah, old post spawner.
Huh?
Post spawner. What worm are you throwing?
Oh, monster 420.
420's color?
Yep.
Rock on. 15-pound line?
No, 20.
20-pound line. He ain't playing.
Nope.
3/8 ounce?
Half.
Really ain't playing. He just pulled another one off about the same size. So we spent the rest of the weekend fishing kind of everything. So we caught that frogfish probably in 2 feet of water, and I caught a fish today in 32 feet of water. We've drug, I've cranked, I caught a few fish on a 10XD and an 8XD, and on a big, I think it's called a 50DD, it's a 6 cents big crankbait. Man, we flipped the grass. I've been all the way from above Stanley to Miller, if you know where Miller is, way down on the south end going up the other arm. So I've covered a lot of water. I got my braking hours in on my motor. And at this point, we're going to get killed if we don't get on something else. I mean, I think on those spots we can catch, that we've seen, we can catch 15, 17 pounds a day. The grass fish should be there, and they're just not. We just can't get bit. I caught a few fish dragging around the edge of the grass, but they're all just 1.5 to 2 pound fish. I spent a lot of time out real deep, specifically in places like out in front of Caney and out in front of the canyons both, and all I can catch is 2-pounders. So I think I may have a few of those fish on film right here as well. So if you get out here and your graph looks like this, I hope you can see that. I'm going to try to get you an angle you can see it. All you got to do is pick up your jigging spoon. I know that's way sexy right there. When your graph lights up like that, take your little 1/2 ounce, excuse me, 3/4 ounce top of your spoon.
Damn. That's a funny feeling though.
What's that?
When they hit it when it's falling.
That went out in the forest that day. I pitched that giant spoon out there and by a tree, and it went down, and all of a sudden it went off to the side, and I swung on him and missed him. I pitched to the tree he was going to, and caught an 8-pounder. Oh, we come off. That's a pretty good one.
Surely they wouldn't hit that big one, huh?
I think they would. I don't know. You'd probably get a lot of bites you didn't catch. I've gone multi-species on you. I ain't gonna handle that nasty thing.
Bug-eyed.
They look like a cartoon character, you know?
Is that a Kentucky?
No, it's a large one.
Okay. How can we tell the difference?
Coloring, but Kentuckies have a little patch of teeth right there on the tip of their tongue. So we're looking along, and Stella sees a buoy. The buoy goes under. Stella gets excited, jumps in the water, catches the buoy. Here you go, baby. Come here. This may be the first ever bona fide Labrador Retriever catch.
Oh shit.
Look at there. Stella had a catfish. Good job, Stella. Good Lord. There's a buddy of mine caught 2 nice fish this afternoon, throwing a frog up super shallow. What is it, 7:15? That was probably an hour ago. So there's obviously still some fish moving up shallow. I could not catch any quality fish shallow. Actually, I didn't catch that many big fish overall. I mean, I don't think we could have broke 15 pounds, maybe 16 pounds any day we fished. And it's going to take a lot more than that. So we either got to find something Thirsty Friday or get a little bit lucky or both. So that's my fishing report. I wish I could give a better report, but that's what I got for you. I do want to show you a couple things that I think might be really helpful for you. So I've gotten a lot of questions about offshore fishing. So I gave a tip earlier this year, and if you missed the tip, it is knowing where your bait lands depth-wise. So what I did was I took a football jig and I flipped it next to the boat where I knew what the depth was, and I counted it down, and if I remember it right, it was 21 feet deep. It took count to 7 to get to the bottom, which told me my sink rate on my jig was about 3 feet a second. Then I threw my jig out on a long point, counted it down. It only took 3 seconds for it to hit the bottom, so I knew it was about 9 feet deep. So that's really helpful when you're fishing offshore. But Humminbird electronics have something on them that nobody that I see uses, and it's incredibly handy, and that is casting rings and also proximity markers. So I'm going to show you how to access those and talk to you a little bit about why I think it's important. The first thing I'll tell you though, to make these really work well for you, you got to know how far you throw your baits. So for example, I know on 12-pound or 15-pound line, I throw a 10XD on average about 68 yards. How do I know that? I stood out in the front yard and I threw it off the front of the boat, or actually standing on a box to kind of make it the same height I would be off the water. So 68 yards, my long cast is about 75 yards, my short cast is 65, and yeah, I know you can throw it further, but I'm old and that's about how far I can throw one. So if I'm throwing at a brush pile or at a point or something that I know and there's a depth I want to hit, I want to know how far it is out to that spot. So I'll show you how to do that. By the way, I know, for example, I throw a Carolina rig about 40 yards. I don't try to throw a Carolina rig nearly as far as I try to throw a big crankbait. So that's 120 feet. So I know the real effective spot away from me that I'm going to fish usually with my Carolina rig is about that 80 to 90 foot range. So throw it 120 feet, it's usually going to swing back a little bit to me as it falls. That 80 to 90 feet is kind of my sweet spot out there. So when I pull up to usually I have my brush piles waypointed. And by the way, usually if it's a brush pile I fish pretty regularly, I'll have a waypoint where the brush pile is, and I'll also have a waypoint where I want to set my boat up. So that way I know the straight line, because a lot of times on spots there is the perfect cast. But that's not always the case. I might run over a brush pile and drop a waypoint and want to back away and cast right back to that brush pile. And there's a way to be really accurate on knowing that you're going to throw at the right spot to get right at that brush pile. So I'm going to show those to you. That made me think of something else, and I can't think now what it was. But let me show you those two features on a Humminbird unit that are incredibly handy, and if you'll turn them on, I think, and use them a little bit, I think you can get really comfortable with them. So let's go to the Humminbird and let's check it out. Now, by the way, so I showed y'all the other day the Bass Boat Technologies mount. So there's the mount, and I really love how it sets up my units. You can tilt them any way you like, but boy, they just set up beautifully right down the center line of my boat, and they're super, super stable. So love that. Thanks, guys, from Bass Boat Technologies for making a great product there. All right, so let's say that I'm going to pull up here, and I want to not put my finger over the camera there, and I want to fish that waypoint right there. Okay, so I want to know, let me try that again, fish that waypoint right there. Now, by the way, my unit, I do not have the heading sensor antenna. They were out. It actually mailed earlier this week. So once I get that, I'll hook it to this unit, and my boat will always stay pointing on here the way the boat is pointing. So you know how sometimes when it gets really slow, it kind of freaks out and your map does circles because it doesn't know where you are. That heading sensor antenna is the cat's meow, and that will help you really hit your brush piles first try. But let's talk about distance to brush piles. So there's my brush pile right there. Well, what I want to do is I want to know, so again, I mentioned I know, so I'm going to go menu, and I'm going to go to nav, and I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to set myself a casting ring. And I've already told you my sweet spot with my Carolina rig is about 80 feet. 80 feet, exit. I'm going to go over to my waypoint, and look at there. That's my 80 feet. So I know to get the perfect cast, I got to move closer to that waypoint. Now, that's a cool feature. Another extremely cool feature is the same place, menu, whoops, try that again. Menu, and go down here, proximity, waypoint proximity flags. Check this out. It will now tell you exactly how far you are from each one of those waypoints. Whoops, dadgummit, I switched screens again. So I know I am now, where it is right there. I am 136 feet from that waypoint. And there's my casting ring, so I'm 36 feet outside my casting ring. Hopefully you can see most of that. Nobody uses those that I see. I use them all the time, and I think it really makes me a better offshore fisherman, and I think if you use them, it'll make you a better offshore fisherman too. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. KenSmithFishing.com. I'm also on Facebook, Ken Smith Fishing. Please shoot me a friend request, and thanks for all the feedback and for subscribing. Good fishing, guys. Be safe.